All right, and now I'm going to hand it over to Kevin Stevenson, who is going to talk about Ruby with helpful technology solutions. Kevin?
Thanks, Amy. So I'm really happy to talk about some of the technology solutions today. For those of you that haven't been with us the last few sessions, Ruby is a parent training program to help equip parents and caregivers with tools and behavioral strategies to increase positive adaptive behaviors, increasing skills that kids are using, as well as decrease some of the interfering behaviors that can come up along the way. And then today we're going to focus part of the time on an app that's been developed specifically to adapt this Ruby parent training, this evidence-supported program, into a digital format. And we'll also be covering additional aspects or technology solutions outside of the Attend Behavior app that we're going to be talking about, that goes along with other ways that you all can use tools that technology has allowed us to use. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So the organization of the learning today, again, the first part of it will be focusing on attend behavior that, again, is adapting the elements from the Ruby parent training program, and then we'll talk about some other helpful apps. Next slide. Okay, I'll turn this slide over to Maddie.
Thank you. One of the things that we have that we deal with when we have topics like behavior is understanding a little bit of what the terms can mean and different ways, strength-based ways we can look at things. So one of the key things is for autistics, behavior is communication. We may have different methods of attempting communication, and when we're not successful at getting these may communicate what is going on through the behaviors that you see. When we hear about the term functional communication, it's not meant as a judgment of either good or bad communication methods, but rather the form of communication to express needs, such as words, pictures, and gestures. And the last thing that we're going to talk about today is the concept of interfering behavior. And these are the behaviors that are interfering with a child's ability to perform their daily activities or the safety or property of others. So instead of using terms like problem behavior or challenging behavior, when we look at what's actually interfering with the child's abilities, we can focus more on helping them meet their needs. Back to you, Kevin.
Wonderful, thanks, Maddie. Okay, let's go to the next slide. I wanted to cover a few points of caveats and barriers that can arise when we talk about technology today. One of them is this idea of lack of engagement. Sometimes using an app, it's very one-sided, where you don't get as much of that coordination with the treatment team. You don't get that feedback. And so, some tools like a timer app, it's probably fine that you don't have a lot of engagement with the professional team, but there are other aspects of understanding behavior and learning tools and strategies that will require more of that engagement with a helping professional or family members or other individuals. And so that's one thing to consider, is how much engagement should there be with what you're doing in the purpose of the technology. Another barrier is a lack of quality. So there's going to be, just because an app is available and just because you pay for it doesn't necessarily mean it's a high quality app. And so that one is sometimes hard to really know intuitively, is what's the quality of the app. Ratings on an app store can be helpful to kind of get at that, but also finding what trusted people share, whether that's friends you have, trusted coworkers, or helping professionals. Those are other ways that you can work to see what's the quality of the apps and technology that's available. And then the last barrier thing that's really important to consider is what's the evidence for the app. Whether it's technology or not, we want to find that the things that we're using are based off of good, solid evidence that they work. And so there's some apps that have, very strong claims that they will improve your mental functions. It'll raise your IQ. It will do all these things. You'll build your brain skills. It's always helpful to look into that evidence, particularly when they're asking you to pay a lot of money for the app, or if there's other things. So as we talk today, we don't endorse necessarily any of the, particularly the third-party apps that we'll be talking about, but these are some things, qualities and things to make you all informed consumers of technology. Next slide. So the app that I'll be talking about at first today is called Attend Behavior. A few caveats for this app. One is the last few sessions where we've talked about the RUBI parent training program. Our ability to do that has been made possible in part through the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities that provided a grant for us to do this training, as well as help provide Attend Behavior subscriptions to this app that I'll be talking about, to families throughout Ohio so that they can leverage technology to see improvements in parenting practices and children's behaviors. So anyone in the state of Ohio can contact a member of your county board of developmental disabilities to request access to the app for free. For those not in Ohio, there are some states, some organizations that will provide Attend Behavior subscriptions, but it's not a readily available app subscription that anyone can get. And so that is a limitation. But at the same time, we encourage you all to, if it's not available in your area, to talk to your care providers, to talk to your insurance companies, if you think that what we show today is something that you think would be helpful for you and your family. I mentioned that this Attend Behavior app is, you see here, is powered by RUBI. It's really taking this evidence-supported, science-based strategies and tools and distilling it down into an app form that's easily available, easily accessible for families that have a subscription for it. The other caveat, none of us here have any stake in Attend Behavior. We're not paid by the company. It's just something that we found to be helpful, and that's our purpose for showing it to you today. So I'll be going through a few slides and then be doing a live demonstration of some of the features of it, so you can see kind of what it looks like from the caregiver side. Next slide. One of the most important features of the app is that there's this evidence-based content. The name of the app is Attend Behavior. So there's learning information. It's not just strategies and tools that we'll talk about, but it's also ways of empowering all of us with more knowledge about the principles behind these skills. So there's different topics that you can see here, and there's information to learn, to apply your knowledge. There's even videos that kind of help describe the principles that are being taught in a pretty user-friendly interface. Next slide. And then along with that interface, there's these wizards or step-by-step guides that after you go through the learning content, also help kind of walk people through the setup for using reinforcers to identify target behaviors and doing all the other skills as well. Next slide. So here's some screenshots of the different things. There's a place to do rewards or incentives for things. And we'll go through some of the specifics in more detail, but here's a sampling of different things that can be done. Next slide. There's also a really great behavior tracking system within the app to help better understand and appreciate the behaviors of this, the cycles of behaviors, what the triggers of behaviors are, what happens afterwards, to try to get to better understand what we call the function or the why behind a behavior, the reason, what's being communicated, what's the need that the behavior that we're seeing is communicating. And so the tracking tools can be really helpful for that. Next slide. And so here's what that incident in the Attend behavior app, it's called incident tracking, where you can put the details, when, how long, you can put what the target behaviors are that maybe you're focusing on now, gives you some ideas of prevention strategies or other behavior strategies to use. You give more details, again, to better understand what's the underlying cycle of the behavior that's going on. Next slide. And then there are reports or graphs that you can see to chart progress over time to see what kinds of behaviors are happening. You can get some better understanding of what's happening in what context. And so the visualization can also be helpful. Next slide. So here's some places to learn more about that app. And I'm now going to pull up my phone if this works. There we go. Okay, I'll hide my face, and this is what the app looks like. So this is the home screen. As you can see here, there are different things. There's the incident, a new incident to report, a check-in that's there. But if we go to a new incident for the behavior tracking, this is what we were looking at before. You can see it's, the date, the time. It can either be live, or if you want to go back in and later on do it, you can put, maybe it was for 10 minutes that the incident was happening. And then you can select behaviors here, go to the other behaviors, and there's a wide variety of specific things. And then for this other one, you can add custom behaviors of things maybe that are relevant for you and your family that you want to talk about or really focus on. But let's say there was some scratching, you can put a general intensity level. Maybe it was just somewhat intense, and you can do when it was happening. Maybe it was during chores. Prevention strategies of maybe changing how you ask or respond could be a good thing to use in that moment. You can go through and put who was involved. Maybe they were alone, or maybe a dad was there. And then the possible functions of a behavior to help you think about what's the why, what's the function, what need are they trying to communicate? Maybe they're trying to escape from doing chores. You can put in the information of what happened before, what happened afterwards. And then then that incident was recorded. And if we go to the track thing here at the bottom, once you've done this a few times, you can look at the charts. And we can look at the behavior incidents. And then over time, we can see that maybe in certain days of the week, there are certain behaviors that are more common than others. And so again, as you put more in, there's more information that could be helpful. Maybe a certain time of day, you're noticing patterns of things happening at a certain time. So in terms of behavior tracking, these are some of the tools that are in Attend behavior. If we go back to the Learn section on the bottom left, you can see that here are the types of topics covered. ABCs of behavior, try to really better understand the antecedents or the triggers, what the behavior actually is, and then what happens afterwards. Prevention strategies, are tools for setting the child up for success, setting the environment up for success. For those of you that have been here the last few sessions, where we have covered the RUBI parent training strategies, a lot of these might seem familiar to you. There's information about how to set up an effective schedule, effective routines, how to use reinforcers or rewards or incentives to help increase those positive everyday living skills, that independent skills that will be good for kids. If you're interested in setting up a token economy system, you can do that. How to have effective instructions for kids, teaching skills, how to teach useful everyday living skills. Those things are here as well. Some of the other features that I wanted to highlight, there are different plans of you target, choose which behaviors are the main focus right now. And again, there are some suggested ones. There are also places for you to add your own. And then I'm going to pull up again. Some of the other things, we talked about the learning strategies. Here you can go in and actually choose some prevention strategies or elements to work on. So if you forgot those, you can go through and choose, okay, for this week, I'm going to really focus on changing the order of events and controlling the environment. And those are the ones that I'm going to work on. There's a place to put a schedule in. There are even ways to create a visual schedule if that's something that would be helpful for the particular child. And that just keeps closing. Then the last thing that I want to highlight here is some of the reinforcers of identifying things that might be reinforcing or rewarding for a child. It might be food, it might be social, it might be activities or privileges, it could be toys, it could be whatever you think might actually be motivating to do any of the activities that you're hoping to do. When you are using the Attend Behavior app with a clinician, they can be, they're usually the ones that send the code that was asked about in the chat. So traditionally, usually there's a professional caregiver, professional that you're working with that can provide that code for the subscription. But once you have that set up, one of the things I really, really like about the Attend Behavior app is that you can invite other parents or other caregivers or even other providers. So maybe there's multiple parents in the household, different parents between households. Maybe there's a speech therapist, maybe there's a teacher. You really want to make sure that you're all on the same page with the child. You can essentially create a care team within the app so that everyone knows, everyone's on the same page of here are the things we're really going to focus on, and here are the strategies that we're going to use to really support our child with it. So that's, again, a brief overview of the Attend Behavior app. For those that are in Ohio, you can talk with the County Board of Developmental Disability worker to get access to that. In other states, other areas, that might also be an option. So reach out to those people to ask more about is Attend Behavior available in your area. Sarah, I saw your question there of what's the role of the care team within the app. Really great question. It can be essentially what you would find helpful. Sometimes the care team could be tracking behaviors in different contexts, so you get a wider range of knowing kind of how things are going. It could be a way, if the teacher is on board with it, to know how are behaviors going at school. So it can really increase that communication between the care team members. And the other thing that's important to remember is that you, as a caregiver, you have complete control over the data. So you could always reach out or remove access to those additional caregivers at any time. So Sue, I would talk to any of the individual caseworkers that you're working with. We've been doing trainings for individuals. They're working for the county boards. Some of the county boards haven't participated yet, and so that could really encourage them to participate so that they can best support you all with that.
Kevin, this is Amy. To Sue's question, I just wanted to add to, we're going to be dropping a link toward the end of the session today for anybody that's in the state of Ohio. If you want to get connected, if you just fill out, it's super easy. Just give us your name and your email and the county that you're from, and then we can also help to make that connection for you as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Amy. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. So now we're going to shift to hopefully apps and other technologies that are more widely applicable to everyone here, or most people here. There's still caveats. Most of these are not completely free apps. Even the apps and other solutions here that are free are like the light version. So you usually have to pay money to unlock the full features and usually the most helpful features. So that's another consideration too, is finding that balance between something that you think will be really helpful and also something that fits within your budget and your priority lists. So even with that, we tried to put together some things that can be, even if they're lower tech, some things that are more easily accessible and can be free to whoever wants to use them. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So daily schedules, this is an evidence-supported practice that is widely effective. And this is something I talked before about, what's the evidence base behind something. There are specific apps that say, here's this new therapy that's an app that's really helpful. Other times the apps are just implementing a strategy, a technique that has already been shown to be effective. Daily schedules are a good example of that, of having autistic kids knowing what to expect and what's going to happen in that day. Removing that uncertainty can be really impactful, really empowering. And so there are different apps and websites that are useful to create visual schedules. Here's a list of different things. There are specific websites and apps like Goalie, iPrompts, iReward, Do to Learn, Lesson Picks. Promptly is another one. Pinterest can be really good to find other ideas. You can even search for pictures on any search engine to find a picture version of brushing your teeth, or an icon for going to the dentist or putting on shoes. And so even something that's completely free, of finding something that's available online, putting it in a document or a Google Doc or something like that, and then there you go, you have a visual schedule. Some other things that could be really helpful is using smart home devices. If you have Google Home, if you have Alexa, if you have Apple Home, you can say, hey Google, set a timer for something, or set a reminder or a schedule. Putting a schedule on a computer screensaver can be also another thing, or a lock screen on a tablet or a phone. Different ways to really bring the daily or visual schedules to the everyday format. Next slide. So I mentioned the behavior tracking features of Attend Behavior. There are other apps that also have the behavior tracking component. So there's a app company, Track and Share. They have various symptom trackers that can be helpful. There's an app called Autism Tracker Pro. If you search for any tracker app or like privilege point tracker apps, chore tracker apps in general can be a search term that might pull up some things that are helpful for you. Again, there's various ones. Most of the time they're paid. Some of the times the free ones have the light features that are good enough. So on the left, those are some of the paid apps. On the right side, here are completely free things. You have a notes app on your phone, doing that of just tracking behaviors on there and jotting down what happened, what time it was. That can be a great way to just have, you might have a piece of paper that you jot down some notes. You can pull out your phone and jot down some notes there. There's a spreadsheet that I put together that we'll be sharing in the resources today that is on, it's a Google Sheets, Google Drive, a Google Doc that you can use a spreadsheet, just put things in and put the behaviors that way. Another free, simple way. Sure, it's not as flashy as some of the apps, it's not as high tech, but it works and it's a digital solution that can be shared with others. So let's go on to the next slide. So this is what the spreadsheet looks like. Set it up to have essentially the same things that were available in the RUBI parent training. These are free handouts. You can put the date, the time, setting what was happening, who was there, what was the trigger, what did the behavior look like, the function. So really the same thing that can be easily created in a free format. Next slide. Another general family of apps to look into are habit trackers. There's so many out there. Habitica is a game-based one where you earn points for doing things. Here's some other ones. There are unlimited options for habit trackers, and so most of these are, I think, usually geared towards adults. We want to create good habits. Well, we can create good habits of the parenting practices that we do. We can help encourage our kids to develop helpful habits for different things. Maybe it would be good for them to track their good habits and they can see their progress along the way. So habit trackers is another family of apps that can be helpful. A similar related one that's more low tech is just simply having a counter app of counting how many times in a day something happens. A counter plus, a counter click counter is usually these two are free ones. Maybe there's some banner ads at the bottom, but generally the basic functions are there as well. Next slide. Timers are another really great resource for kids, especially visual timers. Searching for a visual timer in whatever app store you use, frankly, even on the internet in a browser, you can search for a visual timer. And the thing that is good about this is it's not just the numbers they're counting down, but there's actual visual of either the visual countdown timer has a picture, you can choose different pictures. The time timer is a company that sells physical clocks that have that visual timer. They have, from what I've been able to gather, a completely free app that does the same thing where you can set time down to the second. You can do it for like 12 seconds if you needed to. You can set it for longer too. And so having that real-time feedback for many kids could be nice to really look at the visual of, okay, I've used half my time, half the time to go. And then again, the absolutely free version that doesn't require any downloads is you can use the stock timer or the clock app on your phone or other devices. It may not be as visual as the apps and types of things I have on the left side, but still there's that countdown that could be helpful for kids, so they can see, oh, we have 5 minutes left. Oh, now there's 2 minutes left. So they could be using that as this external cue, and using timers like this can make transitions so much easier. So this is a really great family of apps to look for, are timers. Next slide. Another family of apps to look for are emotion regulation apps. So on the left side, I have ones that were developed for kids. Sesame Street has a free one, Breathe, Think, Do with Sesame. Calm has some really great things both for adults as well as for kids. There's Daniel Tiger's Graphic Feelings. And then there's a mindfulness for children app. So a lot of things that can be helpful to really work on mindfulness skills or emotion regulation skills. Those aren't going to be appropriate for every child. There's some things that are maybe outside of the child's ability level, something that they're able to sit down and focus on. But those are options to look at and see what might be useful. You notice here on the right side, I also have apps for adults. One of the best things that we can do to be effective caregivers for our kids is to make sure that our own emotional well-being is taken care of. And so that's something that's so easy to neglect and forget, is that, oh, like, what's my support system? What's my emotional regulation? What's my emotional health looking like right now? And so a lot of these apps are also free. The many, I know iPhones have it, I'm pretty sure Android devices have it too, but there are stock mindfulness or health apps that you can use to do your own emotion regulation. The second one, the How We Feel app, is a completely free one. That's the best emotion tracking app that I've found for adults. I know it's available on both Android and iPhone. No ads, no payment, it's completely free. Mentioned Calm before. The Mindshift CBT app is another completely free app, as well as the CBTI, or Cognitive Behavioral Therapy for Insomnia Coach. Those two apps were created from grant funds. And so those are now officially and freely available. So there are a lot of really helpful resources to supplement your own, individual counseling and therapy and other things as well. Okay, next slide. We're going to share a lot of other resources for you. This is a list of resources that our team has put together. So let me pause here to see, Andrew, Amy, anything you want to call out for this one?
These will all come out in the resource supplement that you'll receive later after the session. And we put together a variety of these. A lot of them have been talked about by Kevin, but a lot of them are communication focused, but also some for Spanish language specifically. So do take a look at those, and we hope some of those are helpful.
Yeah, I think the other thing I would say is that if you have an app that you really like, or technology usage, share that in the chat. I think we would all like to learn that. I mean, I'll share one. I use Alexa a lot to set alarms and reminders, and it works really well in our house. And it's pretty easy to use. But if you have stuff that you really like, go ahead and share that. And we have more resources coming up, which again, like Andrew said, will be post series or post session today. We'll get out to all of you.
Great. Next slide.
Yeah, so I think one of the things, again, if you're new to the series, we always do this slide as well, as we talk about, your participation in a care team with your child. And I think one of the things you're doing today is you're participating, you're learning about new technology and new applications and things like that might help your child. You're building those foundations for really getting creative and building positive behaviors, which is fantastic. So one of the things I'm going to say again today is make sure what you're learning today you share back with your teams, your it could be your treatment teams, your clinical teams, your education team, especially when it comes to apps. I know we used to share a lot of apps when Henry was in school. So again, share all of that and to continue to learn, because this really has a positive effect on everyone in the household. All right, next slide. I think some other key takeaways from today are, use technology as it fits to your lifestyle, and meets the needs of your child or young adult. I think I said this earlier. If there's a cost associated with some technology that you really think is going to be helpful or that you've tried and you really like, check around with your teams to see if there's funding in your areas that can pay for it, especially if there's 2 or 3 apps or that you would like to use and that can get costly. So definitely check around to see what kind of funding's available in the area where you live. And I think also, I think I mentioned this earlier, is, find the best way to track information. Is it, and to share? Is it through an app? Is it paper and pencil? Excel sheets, which again, one of my favorites. But be sure that you pick the technology or pick the application that's really going to work for you, because I think that's what it's about. If it's comfortable to you, it's more easy for you to collect that information and then share that information, because you'll have a body of information that you've collected. And again, keep the lines of communication open with those team members, and share that information, what you're learning, what you're seeing, because it's going to be helpful as you design your treatment and medication and care pathways as you're moving forward. All right, next slide. These are some of the resources that we talked about. These are all going to be in the post email that you'll get from today. So we've shared some of these. The art team always has a lot of things that they share with us, which is fantastic. Next slide. I think there's more resources. And Andrew, if there's anything on here that you want to call out, just let me know. Next slide. I think there's some specific Autism Speaks ones.
Yeah, so we included the assistive technology roadmap, which is a great sort of free digital download. You can just download right from that link, and that's available in Spanish as well. And a couple other blogs and things about how to incorporate assistive tech into your daily routine, all free downloads at those links.
Excellent. And next slide. And then this is another one that Andrew actually shared. And Andrew, I don't know if you want to take the lead on this, but it's autism apps. So I did a screenshot of what it looks like so you can see it. But you can sort of peruse it to see what's in there, to see if one of those might work for you. Andrew, did you have anything more to share on that?
Yeah, agree, Amy. It's just sort of a one-stop place where you can go. They're all for Apple devices. Unfortunately, doesn't appear to be cross-platform, but for Apple users, it gets you into a hub where you can look at a variety of categories, almost like a database of apps that allows you to search for what you're looking for. I think it could be a great tool to start and, look at the reviews, read carefully, make sure that there's no, like I think Maddie and Kevin both pointed out that sometimes these have costs hidden in them. So, be careful, but read those reviews and use that resource as a way to find what you need. I think that'd be a good starting point.
Excellent. Right. Next slide. All right, we are at questions and discussions.